Hey, what's up guys? It's William Shewfelt, and today I want to tell you about my 7 top tips if you're trying to do carnivore on a budget. Now, if you're like me, you don't want to go to Whole Foods and get all of the grass-fed steaks and just spend the whole paycheck at Whole Foods. So what I do is I focus on what's really going to get me the best results on carnivore with best bang for your buck. So check it out. Okay, first one is ground beef. This should be a no-brainer, but you can grab really quality ground beef for usually $4.99 a pound. Sometimes you can grab it for $3.99 a pound, and at Sprouts, they have grass-fed ground beef often for $3.99, sometimes $2.99 a pound. So you can get some very good quality ground beef, very cheap. You can go to Costco for that, you can go to Ralph's, Vons, whatever stores you have around you, but there's usually great deals on bulk ground beef. So ground beef is number one. It's gonna get all your B vitamins, you're gonna get your zinc, you're gonna get a good enough omega-3 to omega-6 ratio. It is not super important that you get grass-fed ground beef. The nutrient differences are not significant enough that I think it's worth the price increase. So personally, I usually get conventional ground beef, but occasionally I will get grass-fed ground beef if it's at Sprouts and it's on sale. Number 2, you wanna be getting some cheap steaks. Okay, so steak is not cheap by any means, especially if you're doing, a grass-fed ribeye from Whole Foods or some fancy pants place. But what I do is I go for some cheap New York steaks and ribeye steaks, and how I do that is I use an app called Flip, F-L-I-P-P, which you can check out on the App Store. That's gonna give you all of the deals in your area, and you just type in steak on it, and it's gonna show you all of the sales you got going on. So the cheapest ribeyes and New Yorks and top rounds and all the different steaks. The other way you can do that is on mygrocerydeals.com. That's another website that I've used to find good deals on steak in the area. So you'll always be notified of where the best deals are. You could just go to the store, pick it up, and you'll be taken care of. I also occasionally go to Costco. Costco has some pretty good deals on New York strip steaks. The ribeyes are still, about, I think, over 10 bucks a pound, but New Yorks you can usually get for about $7, $8 a pound, which is really not too bad. That's about the same price that you would get per pound of beef at McDonald's or at In-N-Out. So much better deal, and it's gonna taste a hell of a lot better. Number 3, you can grab yourself a good chuck roast. So a chuck roast is basically a huge hunk of meat that you'll get. It's usually pretty cheap. You can get that for maybe $3, $4 a pound. And what you'll wanna do with this is you throw it in the crock pot. You can throw some spices in there. You can put some salt in there. You fill it up. And then once you've got your spices, your meat in there, then you just set that crock pot on low for about 6 to 8 hours. By the time you come home, it is gonna be a delicious meal just waiting for you. So I would highly recommend trying that. Chuck roasts are a really cost-effective option and an easy way to get in tons of meat, a good amount of fat, and no prep needed really. You just throw it in the crock pot and it's taken care of. Number 4, chicken. Now chicken is actually pretty cost-effective. It's usually very cheap. You can even get ground chicken for pretty cheap. You can do chicken breast, which is pretty cheap as well. And sometimes I like to do a rotisserie chicken from Vons sometimes, or from Sprouts, or maybe Whole Foods. And if you can get yourself a good rotisserie chicken, you will have an entire chicken, which is usually, a pound and a half, 2 pounds of meat for about 7 bucks. Now that is a really good deal. That'll come out to about 3 to 4 bucks a pound. So lots of protein. You're gonna get the skin, which has the collagen. It's got some good fat on it. Now sometimes they'll put a lot of spices in there. They might have some MSG on there and some less than savory ingredients. So I would definitely pay attention to that and make sure you're getting the highest quality. Try not to go for the ones that are barbecue or things like that. Just stick to one that's maybe just herbs. Number 5, eggs. Eggs are super important in your diet because of the egg yolks, which are really one of nature's multivitamins. So I would recommend getting a dozen eggs. Preferably, you would get pasture-raised, which will run you about $5.99 a dozen, but if you can't afford that, it's better to consume conventional eggs than no eggs at all. So I'd recommend getting a dozen eggs. Conventional ones will usually be about $2.99, $3.99, so for 12 eggs, that's a really good deal. Number 6, sardines. So you're gonna wanna get a good source of omega-3s in the diet, so I would really recommend getting into sardines. Now, salmon is good, but sometimes it can be kind of pricey. And other sources of seafood can be pretty pricey as well. But Wild Planet Foods, I believe the name of the company is, they sell these great little tins of wild-caught sardines, really quality. You put some salt on that, it's delicious. You can get the ones that are packed in olive oil or marinara sauce, or you could do the ones just packed in some water with sea salt in it. And really good source of omega-3s. You don't have to eat tons of this. It doesn't have to be a huge dietary staple, but it's cost effective and you'll get your omega-3s in. Now, tip number 7, this is not even a food, but it's just a piece of advice. Do not always think that you have to get grass-fed, pasture-raised, wild-caught, okay? It is better that you just get conventional beef and you get conventional carnivore foods than to not do carnivore at all. I think a conventional carnivore diet is still gonna be healthier for you in the long term than an omnivorous, higher carb, higher sugar diet. You're gonna have all the benefits still of running off of ketones. You're gonna have tons of nutrient density in these animal foods, even if they're conventionally raised. They're gonna be very bioavailable. You're gonna be cutting out all of the industrial seed oils. You're gonna be cutting out all of the sugar, all of these inflammatory foods in the diet. So you're already taking care of about 80% of the nutrition equation by simply cutting out all of these crappy foods and incorporating lots of nutrient-dense animal foods. Now, if you are gonna do higher quality in your diet, the most important one I would say is wild-caught seafood. You really don't wanna get mercury in your diet. That's gonna cause a lot of issues. You can get some pretty bad headaches and side effects with that. So do wild-caught seafood, that's number 1. My second one would be go for the pasture-raised eggs. You're gonna get a lot more nutrients, especially carotenoids and omega-3s in the pasture-raised egg yolks. So go for those, that's number 2. Number 3, if you can afford it, do the grass-fed meats. Grass-fed ground beef is actually gonna be pretty affordable, so I would go for that. Grass-fed steaks, holy crap, they're usually pretty damn expensive, so I would not go for that. But it ultimately depends on your situation. If you can afford them and you would prefer to get them, then go for those. So those are my 7 tips for doing carnivore on a budget. These are the tips that I personally use. I consume all of those foods. I'll do a lot of conventional beef. I get some grass-fed ground beef now and then. I'll get wild-caught sardines. I do some occasional oysters. I personally like to go with pasture-raised eggs. I think that the benefit that you'll get in the yolks is worth it. But these are my tips if you want to do carnivore on a budget. Keep them in mind. Comment below what your favorite tips are for doing carnivore on a budget and the way that you do this diet. And also comment below what you would like to hear me talk about in future videos. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like it, subscribe to the channel, and I will have more carnivore content coming to you soon. Peace out.